When we think about medical research, actually, so I'm a clinical researcher, and I just make up a very small amount of the researchers that are currently doing work in women's health and medicine as a whole. And actually the demographic when we start off is quite equal. So men and women both have opportunities at the beginning, and I guess the question really is, why don't women progress to the top of research? And I think there are issues around funding and around unpredictability of that women struggle with. So for example, at critical times in their career, when perhaps they want to get married and have babies, that unpredictability is very difficult for them to deal with. And therefore, charity funding such as the Wellbeing of Women is incredibly important, because that gives us the opportunity to really take a step into that field and to gain experience and to fly.
So I got involved with the charity Wellbeing of Women, I guess after seeing a lot of my friends and family suffering from various issues to do with their reproductive health that there's just not much known about. I started reading up, came across this fantastic charity and just felt compelled by how much incredible work they do, how much medical research they do. So the charity has been around since 1964. It was founded by an obstetrician who'd seen a woman die in childbirth, and he felt completely determined to change that. And since then, the remit has widened, and we now fund research into women's reproductive health spanning from the start of puberty, so any issues women can suffer from, including polycystic ovary syndrome, endometriosis, then through pregnancy and birth, such as miscarriage, preterm birth, preeclampsia, and including gynecological cancers, and through to the menopause. So it's really a spectrum of women's health and covering a multitude of issues that we simply need to know more about.
Often big decisions that we make in our lives are driven by amazing mentors and grabbing and making opportunities. And so therefore within my career, I worked within the preterm birth clinic at St Thomas's Hospital. And it was really that sparked my interest in research and also in preterm birth research. So this was an opportunity to actually see and work on something in the lab that then gets translated into the bedside. Preterm birth, there are lots of questions which we don't know the answers to. And so really the research that we're doing can translate into real and tangible differences to women and the health of their pregnancies.
It's quite impressive to be offered a grant, because we get far more applications than we're able to fund, and we are always needing more funding, as most charities are, but there's just simply not enough. So for Alex to have received funding means that her research will have been vetted and kind of qualified by a whole host of experts and deemed good enough to be afforded funding, and these are by kind of a range of experts around the country, specialists in their areas, who will have really rigorously looked through her research. So we're very pleased to be funding her work.
Without the Wellbeing of Women, I wouldn't be able to do this research at the moment. So they really champion research into childbirth and reproductive health. As a woman, you can't go through pregnancy without being helped by or experiencing something that Wellbeing of Women has put forward from research grants such as my own. So for example, the pregnancy vitamins that you take, looking at folic acid and its importance in pregnancy, that was established from research done by Wellbeing of Women. Some of the IVF techniques, antenatal scanning. So you can see the incredibly important outputs that this funding has. Obstetrics is often referred to as the Cinderella specialty. So historically, the funding that obstetrics has received has really been the little sister of other male-dominated specialties such as cardiovascular, heart disease, high blood pressure. But we know that research in obstetrics is the highest recruiting specialty. So the women that we look after and who are involved in our research studies make up the largest proportion of people being involved in research. And yet the funding is really only 2.48% of all funding in the UK goes to obstetrics. So really we need to emphasise the importance of this and continue to drive for more funding. My own research associated with King's College London, supervised by Andrew Shannon and Rachel Tribe, is looking to try and develop a bedside test. So when you come in as a woman to our clinic, you've had a previous pregnancy which has ended in a loss of your baby. It's a bit like a pregnancy test, so you can do it just around the dating scan. And you can take a woman who's had a really traumatic pregnancy last time, and in the vast majority of cases say, this pregnancy is going to be fine. And therefore, the reassurance and the improvement in healthcare that you can see with these research studies was such a driving force for me to see what a dramatic improvement we can help make in women's lives.